rain had been falling since dawn, a slow, relentless drizzle that turned the dirt roads of Willow Creek into thin ribbons of mud. The kind of rain that made everything seem quieter, as if the whole town was holding its breath. Inside Marty's diner, the air smelled of bacon grease, burnt toast, and old coffee. The jukebox in the corner hummed faintly, playing a Sinatra tune that crackled like it came from another lifetime. Sheriff Henry Cole sat in his usual booth by the window, his back to the wall. Old habits die hard. He was a man in his early 60s, with steel gray hair, a square jaw, and the tired eyes of someone who spent too many years staring at other people's lives. He stirred his coffee absent-mindedly and glanced out the window. The rain traced thin lines down the glass, blurring the outline of Main Street, the gas station, the post office, and the boarded-up cinema that hadn't shown a movie since '68. Willow Creek wasn't much, but it was his town. The bell above the diner door jingled. A tall man entered, shaking the water from his coat. He wore a dark overcoat despite the mild autumn, and his hat shadowed his face. He moved with deliberate calm, like a man who rehearsed every motion. "Morning," Marty said, polishing a mug with a rag that had seen better days. "Coffee?" The stranger nodded. "Black. No sugar." His voice was smooth, too smooth, and carried a faint accent Henry couldn't quite place. Cole watched, silent. Outsiders didn't just stroll into Willow Creek without a reason. Not unless they were lost, or lying. The man sat at the counter, briefcase at his side, untouched. His shoes black leather, polished to a mirror, looked out of place against the scuffed linoleum floor. "Just passing through?" Marty asked. The stranger smiled faintly. "Something like that." Cole folded his newspaper and stood. As he reached the counter to pay, the stranger looked up. "Excuse me," he said softly. "Sheriff Henry Cole, isn't it?" Henry's brow furrowed. "That's right. You got business with me?" The man's smile lingered. "Not yet. But soon." He slid a folded card across the counter. Plain white, embossed letters, "Jonathan Mercer, private investigator." Henry turned it over. No address. Just a phone number written in neat, even script. "What brings a pie to Willow Creek?" Mercer looked at him steadily. "An old case. A missing person. You might remember her, Evelyn Harper." Henry froze. For a moment, the sound of rain against the window was the only thing in the room. "That case is 20 years cold," he said quietly. Mercer nodded. "Sometimes, Sheriff, the past doesn't stay buried." Without another word, he left $1 on the counter, took his briefcase, and stepped back into the drizzle. That evening, the rain had stopped, but the clouds hung low over the town like a dirty blanket. Cole sat in his office on Main Street, a small room that smelled of paper, old coffee, and ghosts. The neon sheriff's office sign buzzed in the window, its flicker timed like a slow heartbeat. He opened a drawer and took out the Harper file. The pages were yellowed, the corners soft from years of handling. Evelyn Harper, 23, blonde hair, green eyes, disappeared October 1953. Last seen near her family's old house by the creek. They searched for weeks, woods, riverbanks, even drained the pond, nothing. Eventually, the town moved on. But Henry never did. He had been new to the badge back then. Young, eager. Evelyn's case was his first real investigation, and his first real failure. He lit a cigarette and stared at the faded photo of her smiling face. Why now, he thought. Why bring this up after all these years? A knock at the door pulled him back. "Come in," he called. Deputy Mary Lou Carter entered, tall, sharp-eyed, and not easily rattled. She'd been with him for 8 years, one of the few people in town he trusted without question. "Evening, Sheriff," she said, handing him a brown envelope. "This came in this morning. No return address." Henry opened it carefully. Inside was a black and white photograph, grainy and faded. It showed a group of people standing in front of the old Harper house, but one face made his blood run cold. It was the man from the diner, Jonathan Mercer. Henry flipped the photo over. On the back, in neat handwriting, was a date, October 12, 1953. "Where did this come from?" he asked. Mary Lou shrugged. "Someone left it on the station steps before sunrise. I checked with the post office, wasn't emailed." Henry leaned back, the leather chair creaking under his weight. "That's 2 appearances of this man in one day, one in 1953, one today." Mary Lou frowned. "You think it's the same guy? That's impossible. He'd have to be, what, 80 by now." Henry tapped the photo with his finger. "Look closely. The man in the picture, he hasn't aged a day." Mary Lou laughed nervously. "Maybe it's his father. Or something else entirely," Henry murmured. He slid the photo into the Harper file and closed it slowly, the old hinges sighing like tired lungs. "Mary Lou," he said finally, "I want you to drive out to the Harper place tomorrow. See if anyone has been poking around out there. And keep an eye on Mercer. If he is still in town, I want to know where he sleeps, eats, and breathes." She nodded. "Got it?" As she turned to leave, she paused by the door. "Sheriff, you ever think maybe some cases are better left unsolved?" Henry looked at her. His eyes were tired but hard. "There's no such thing. Dash dash." Later that night, the wind rose again, and the street lights flickered. Cole sat alone in his office, listening to the whisper of rain against the windows. He opened the drawer one more time, pulled out the old photo, and studied the faces. There were 6 people: Evelyn Harper, her brother Tom, the local pastor, 2 men he didn't recognize, and Mercer. He flipped the photo over again. Beneath the date, almost invisible under the faded ink, was something else, a line scrawled in shaky handwriting: "The creek keeps its secrets." Henry felt a chill crawl down his spine. He stood, took his hat from the rack, and looked out the window. Somewhere beyond the mist, beyond the trees and the dark water of the creek, something was waiting, something that had been buried for 20 years. And tonight, it had begun to stir. Morning came gray and heavy. The clouds hung low over Willow Creek, and a faint mist curled along the river like smoke from an invisible fire. Sheriff Henry Cole drove slowly down the narrow road that wound toward the old Harper place, a road he hadn't taken in years. The house appeared through the fog like a ghost, 2 stories, white paint long peeled away, shutters hanging crooked. The porch sagged under its own weight. A "for sale" sign leaned half buried in the weeds, faded beyond reading. Mary Lou's patrol car was already there, parked beside the rusted gate. She stood in the yard, her coat collar turned up against the damp wind, jotting notes in her pad. "Morning, Sheriff," she said as he stepped out. "You were right. Someone has been here recently." She pointed to the muddy ground. Fresh tire tracks, small, narrow, not local. And footprints, 2 heavy ones, leading straight to the front porch. Cole crouched, examining them. "One person," he murmured. "Boots. Expensive ones." He glanced toward the trees beyond the house. The creek whispered there, hidden by reeds and fog. It was the same sound it had made 20 years ago, when they searched for Evelyn Harper. Let us take a look inside. The front door creaked open with a groan that echoed through the empty halls. The air smelled of mildew and thyme. Wallpaper hung in curling strips, and dust lay thick on the wooden floors. They moved slowly through the rooms: the living room, the kitchen, the narrow staircase where Evelyn's mother once stood crying during the search. Mary Lou shone her flashlight into a corner. "Sheriff, look at this." A half-empty coffee cup sat on the mantelpiece fresh. The faint smell of tobacco lingered in the air. Cole touched the cup. "Still warm." "Someone was here not long ago," he said. "Maybe even this morning." He turned toward the window and froze. Across the yard, near the edge of the creek, a figure was standing motionless, watching them. It was Mercer. By the time they reached the yard, he was gone. Only the mist remained, thick and swirling. Cole scanned the trees. "He's playing games," he muttered. "He wants us to see him." "Why?" Mary Lou asked. "To make sure we know he's in control." They searched the property for another hour, finding only small traces: a cigarette butt, the faint smell of cologne, and a folded paper tucked into the frame of an old photograph on the mantel. Cole unfolded it carefully. It was a page torn from a ledger. On it was a single handwritten note: "She didn't drown. She ran." Mary Lou frowned. "Ran where?" Cole's eyes narrowed. "Or from who?" Back at the station, Cole pinned the photo and note on the old corkboard. The faces from 1953 stared back at him, young, smiling, unaware of what was coming. Mary Lou stood beside him, arms crossed. "You ever think maybe Mercer isn't who he says he is?" "I'm starting to think he is not a pie at all," Cole said. "He knew about the Harper case before he even spoke to me. He's got photographs no one else has. And he looks the same as he did 20 years ago." Mary Lou half laughed. "So what, you think he is some kind of ghost?" Cole didn't answer. He stared at Mercer's face on the board. Those eyes steady, calm, knowing. He'd seen eyes like that before in men who'd done terrible things and learned to live with them. That evening, he stopped by the Creekside Motel. The manager, an older man named Leonard, was a talker, one of those who knew everything about everyone. "Evening, Len," Cole said, flashing his badge. "Got a guest named Jonathan Mercer." Leonard rubbed his chin. "Checked in last night. Room 5. Paid cash. Quiet fella. Didn't he want the maid service?" Cole nodded. "He around?" Leonard shook his head. "Left about an hour ago. Said he was headed out toward the old bridge." Cole thanked him and walked out. As he passed the row of rooms, he noticed something odd. Mercer's car, a dark blue Lincoln, was parked neatly by the curb. The trunk was slightly ajar. He hesitated, then lifted it open. Inside were stacks of files, carefully labeled "Harper Case, Cole Investigation, Willow Creek Police Records 1953 to 55. Cole's jaw tightened. There was even a file marked "Personal Henry Cole." He opened it. Inside was a copy of his service record, old photos of him in uniform, and most unsettling of all, a letter dated 1953. It was his own handwriting. He read it slowly. "Evelyn, if you get this, leave town tonight. They can't find out what we did." His stomach turned cold. He didn't remember ever writing it. He folded the letter carefully, his hands trembling slightly. Someone had gone through a lot of trouble to make him doubt his own memory. At home that night, Henry poured himself a stiff drink and sat by the fire. The room was silent except for the faint ticking of the old mantel clock. He stared into the flames, thinking about that summer 20 years ago. He'd been 39 then, newly appointed deputy, full of ideals. He remembered Evelyn Harper Kane's smile, restless eyes. The way she used to stop by the office, bringing coffee for the night shift. She'd been engaged to Tom Hensley, the town's golden boy. But everyone knew she had doubts. There had been rumors of someone else, an older man, a secret romance. Henry had dismissed them at the time. But now, reading that letter, he wasn't so sure. They can't find out what we did. The words echoed like footsteps in his mind. He poured another drink. The glass trembled slightly in his hand. Outside, the wind picked up again, howling through the trees. Then came the sound. A soft knock at the door. He froze. Another knock, gentle, deliberate. He stood, hand instinctively reaching for the revolver in the drawer. He opened the door slowly. No one there. Only an envelope on the porch, weighed down by a small stone. He picked it up and brought it inside. The paper was damp from the mist, his name written in neat cursive, Sheriff Henry Cole. Inside was a single Polaroid photo, fresh, clear. It showed him standing at the old Harper house that morning, looking out the window. The back of the photo read, "You're looking in the wrong place." Cole sat heavily in his chair, staring at the picture. His pulse was steady, but something deep inside him stirred a memory he couldn't quite reach. Maybe Mercer wasn't chasing a case. Maybe he was chasing him. He looked again at the faces on the corkboard. Evelyn, Mercer, the others. Whatever had happened by that creek 20 years ago, it wasn't over. And for the first time in decades, Henry Cole wasn't sure whether he was the detective, or the suspect. The next morning, the town seemed quieter than usual, like it was waiting for something. The fog clung low to the streets, and even the crows that usually perched on the courthouse roof were gone. Sheriff Henry Cole hadn't slept. The Polaroid photo lay on his desk, edges curling slightly from the heat of the lamp. He must be turned it over 100 times, looking for a clue, a reflection, a shadow, anything. But there was nothing. Just his own image, framed in the window of the Harper house, looking lost. Mary Lou walked in with 2 coffees and that same expression she wore when she knew he hadn't gone home. "You look like hell, Sheriff," she said, handing him a cup. "I've looked worse," he muttered, sipping. "Any word on Mercer?" She shook her head. "Motel says he checked out at dawn. No forwarding address, no calls, nothing. Just disappeared." Cole leaned back. "He's still here. Somewhere." Mary Lou studied him for a long moment. "You sure this isn't personal, Henry? You've been chasing ghosts for 20 years. Maybe this guy's just stirring the dust." He didn't answer. Instead, he reached for the old Harper file again. He knew every line of it, every statement, every lie that had gone unchallenged. But one page caught his attention now, a name he'd almost forgotten. Frank Mallory. Local drifter. Mechanic. Questioned in '53, then disappeared 2 days after Evelyn. Cole's pulse quickened. "Mary Lou, get me whatever's left on Mallory. And check county records, see if any next of kin ever came looking for him." "You think the two are connected?" I think nothing in this town ever really goes away. Dash dash. 2 hours later, they were parked in front of the old Mallory garage, a corrugated tin structure half swallowed by vines. The sign still read Mallory's Repairs, though most of the letters had rusted off. Mary Lou pried the door open, coughing as dust billowed out. Inside was a graveyard of old cars, tools left mid-repair, everything frozen in time. Cole's flashlight swept across the workbench. He stopped. "Look at this," he said. Tacked to the wall was a newspaper clipping, "Woman vanishes near Willow Creek." The edges were yellowed, but someone had circled Evelyn Harper's name in red pencil. Below it, on the workbench, lay an old photograph. Evelyn again smiling, arm around a man whose face was half burned away by time and sunlight. Cole picked it up, his hand trembling slightly. He turned it over. In faint pencil, someone had written, "He wasn't he supposed to find out?" Dash dash. They spent the afternoon combing the garage. Most of it was junk, rusted wrenches, oil cans, and boxes of parts. But under a false panel in the floor, Mary Lou found a small metal box wrapped in oilcloth. Inside were 3 items, one a woman's locket, engraved with the initials EH2. A torn piece of cloth, stained dark with something old. 3 and a folded letter. Cole opened it carefully. "Henry. If you're reading this, I'm sorry. I thought I could fix what happened that night, but I can't. She's gone, and it's my fault. Don't come looking for me." FM Mary Lou looked over his shoulder. "Sheriff," he wrote to you. Henry stared at the words until they blurred. "He was my friend," he said quietly. "We served together in Korea. When he came back, he wasn't he the same. I helped him get that garage." He ran a hand over his face. "But I never got this letter." Mary Lou hesitated. "Maybe Mercer found it? Maybe that's why he's here, to make sure you do." Cole's voice hardened. "Then he's doing a damn good job." Dash dash. That evening, the fog thickened again, rolling in from the creek like a slow tide. Cole drove out toward the water, headlights cutting narrow beams through the mist. The air smelled of damp earth and decay. He parked near the old bridge, the same place they'd found Evelyn's car 20 years ago. The bridge was half rotted now, boards missing, the river below dark and silent. He stood there a long time, listening. And then he heard it faint, almost like a whisper. "Henry." He turned sharply, gun drawn. Nothing. Only the wind moving through the reeds. But then came another sound, the soft crunch of gravel behind him. He spun around. Mercer stood by the car, calm as ever, coat buttoned, briefcase in hand. "You shouldn't be here," Cole said. "Neither should you," Mercer replied. "But here we are." Cole's voice was low. "You've been following me. Watching me. You left those photos." Mercer didn't deny it. Sometimes the only way to find the truth is to make a man remember what he's been trying to forget. What's that supposed to mean? Mercer stepped closer. "You think you're the only one who lost something that night. Evelyn wasn't he just another missing person, Sheriff. She was the key." "The key to what?" "To what you did." Cole's jaw clenched. "I don't know what you're talking about." Mercer opened the briefcase slowly. Inside were more photos, all Polaroids, recent ones. Each showed Henry at places connected to the Harper case, the diner, the old bridge, the house. But the most disturbing photo was the last one. It showed Henry asleep at his desk, the night before. "Jesus Christ," he whispered, Mercer smiled faintly. I've been closer than you think. Cole raised his gun. You're going to start talking, right now. But Mercer didn't move. His expression softened, almost pitying. You really don't remember, do you? The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of smoke from the woods. Somewhere, an owl hooted. What happened to Evelyn? Henry Mercer asked quietly. Tell me. I told you I don't know. Mercer's eyes searched his face. Maybe not. But you did. Once. He turned, stepping into the fog. Meet me tomorrow night. The Harper house. Midnight. Bring the truth with you. Then he was gone. The mist swallowed him whole. Dash dash. Cole drove back in silence, his mind a storm. Memories flickered, laughter by the creek, Evelyn's hand brushing his arm, the shimmer of lanterns on water. Then shouting. The sound of something breaking. He slammed the steering wheel. No, he muttered. That's not how it happened. When he got home, he poured another drink and opened the locket from the box. Inside was a tiny photograph, Evelyn, smiling, standing beside a man whose face was obscured by a glare of light. But Henry recognized the suit. The badge. It was him. The glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. For a long time, he just stood there, staring at the picture. Maybe Mercer was right. Maybe he had forgotten or chosen to. Outside, the fog thickened until the house was swallowed by it. Somewhere beyond the trees, the creek whispered, steady and patient, like it had been waiting all these years for him to listen. Dash dash. The next morning, Mary Lou arrived to find his office empty. The corkboard was gone, the photos missing. Only a single note remained on the desk, don't follow me. Some things you can't unsee. HC dash dash. That night, Willow Creek slept under a shroud of mist. Only the sound of the river filled the dark. And somewhere, down by the water, a lantern flickered in the window of the old Harper house, a light that hadn't burned in 20 years. The morning after the storm broke calm and bright over Willow Creek. The air smelled of damp earth and pine, mist curled off the water like breath from a sleeping giant. Sheriff Nolan sat alone on the porch of the town hall, hat in hand, the events of the night still echoing in his mind like a sermon he couldn't quite forget. Word had spread, as it always did in small towns, that something had happened out by the old Harper place. By breakfast, the gossip had turned from whispers to full-blown myth, a ghost, a murder, a long-lost secret. Nobody had all the facts, but everyone had an opinion. Arthur Kane, his coat still damp from the rain, stood by the window in the sheriff's office, gazing at the square where life carried on as if nothing had changed. Mrs. Bell opened her diner as usual. The mailman made his rounds. Yet everything had changed. Beneath that calm surface lay the ugly truth that had poisoned Willow Creek for decades. When Nolan came in, he said nothing at first. He poured himself coffee, the kind that smelled like burnt wood and habit. Arthur broke the silence. She didn't kill him, Nolan. You know that now. The sheriff nodded slowly. Yeah. I know. But she covered it up just the same. For a man she thought she loved. Arthur turned from the window. And that man was Harold Blythe. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Reverend Blythe. The man everyone trusted. They had found the Reverend's journal the night before, hidden beneath the floorboards of the old house by the creek. The pages, yellowed and water-stained, told a story of greed, betrayal, and guilt. Blythe had discovered the town's founding scandal, the land deal that had left the Harper family ruined, and rather than expose it, he had taken his cut to keep quiet. When young Emily Harper had threatened to go to the papers, he silenced her forever. Only one person had known, Margaret Blythe, his wife. She had lived with that knowledge for 40 years, smiling at Sunday service, bringing pies to the fair, pretending her life was built on a lie. When she finally confessed to Arthur the night of the storm, it wasn't to protect herself, it was to end the cycle. Nolan sighed. She's at peace now. Said she wanted to see the sunrise one more time. I let her sit by the creek this morning. Didn't he have the heart to bring her in yet? Arthur nodded, his face unreadable. He had seen this before, the weight of conscience that bends a person slowly, year after year, until confession is the only relief left. He stepped out onto Main Street, the sun now higher, the town coming alive. People nodded to him, polite, curious, a little afraid. They knew he had come here digging for answers, and that he found them. But Willow Creek preferred its peace, even when built on silence. At the diner, Mrs. Bell poured him coffee and said softly, "You'll be leaving soon, Mr. Kane." "Yes," he said. "I think my work here is done." She hesitated. "You think the town will ever be the same?" Arthur smiled faintly. "It never was what it seemed to be. That afternoon, down by the creek, Margaret Blythe sat on the wooden bench she and her husband had built years ago. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked into the water, the same water where Emily Harper had vanished one cold night in 1933. When Nolan approached, she didn't turn. "I used to think I heard her sometimes," she said softly. "At night, when the wind came down the creek. Like she was still out there, waiting for someone to tell the truth." Nolan removed his hat. "You've done that now?" She smiled sadly. "No, Sheriff. Mr. Kane did. I just confirmed what everyone else refused to see." She reached into her coat pocket and handed him a small silver locket inside, a faded photograph of Emily Harper. "She deserved better than the lies we told." By sunset, Margaret Blythe was gone. They found her seated peacefully, eyes closed, the locket still clutched in her hand. That evening, Arthur Kane prepared to leave Willow Creek. He stood by his car, the headlights cutting through the early fog. Nolan joined him, hands deep in his coat pockets. "You'll write about this?" the sheriff asked. Arthur shook his head. "No. Some stories aren't meant for newspapers. They belong to the people who live them and to the silence that keeps them." Nolan looked out over the creek, the reflection of the town shimmering on its surface. "Funny thing, though. Maybe the truth'll give this place a chance to start over." "Maybe," Arthur said, opening the car door. "But truth doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes it just removes the illusion." He drove off as the church bell tolled 6 times. Behind him, Willow Creek returned to its evening rhythm, porch lights flickering on, laughter from the diner, the soft hum of a world pretending everything was just fine. But deep in the woods, where the creek boomed like a silver thread, the wind whispered through the reeds a sound that was neither sorrow nor relief, but something in between. And if you listened closely, it almost sounded like forgiveness.